Sure. Hello, Yizhao Martins, licensed marriage and family therapist, couples therapist. Let's continue with our conversations on authority issues in ADHD impacted relationship. Today, we're going to talk about sex. So, there's a very little research done on how sex impacts ADHD and ADHD impacted relationships, but there is a great book written by Dr. Ari Ackerman. He actually did a surveys, online surveys with 3,000 couples. They are the ADHD and non-ADHD combined combo couples and mostly sexual hetero couples. So there is some really valuable research data collected by Dr. Ackerman. So I'm just going to give you a quick review of some. One is ADHD actually impacts men and women differently when it comes to sex. Two is there is a huge unique dynamic that between the ADHD men and the ADHD non-ADHD women couple that actually reflects some of the gender-based challenges in our couples, which also my clinical observation really verified this observation with research. It is a parent-child dynamic that show up in the relationship that impacts sex negatively. Well, you probably can imagine, right, if the relationship between a couple is a parent-child dynamic, in this case, a non-ADHD woman more representing a mother figure, and the ADHD man representing more like a son. And how's that hot in the bedroom? So it's really killing the sexual vibe. What I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the authority issues, how that reflect in sex and for the ADHD, non-ADHD couples. Again, we're going to take a look at from the three categories we talk about for authority issues. One is self-definition. So it mostly talk about how each person is expressing their thoughts, their feelings, and how their feelings, emotions showing up in their body, and how aware they are, how much easy they can identify them and express them without losing themselves or afraid they're going to lose their ground. The second category is boundaries, which is an essential element in couples' relationship. The third category is values and the differences in values and how couples, able or not able, negotiate their differences in values. So first is self-definition. Let's take a look at the ADHD partner self-definition. What I'm sharing are just some patterns that I observe is not exclusive or inclusive. That means, well, sometimes people don't have ADHD may show these patterns, and it's not to say all the people with ADHD definitely just have these patterns and don't have anything else. So if you're watching this video, it doesn't matter you have ADHD or not, where you're falling in the continuum, please share with me if you notice, hey, I'm different. I have ADHD, but my patterns is different from what you're describing. Please let me know. I'm sure there will be some uniqueness and individuality in that. But let me just share with some general categories and observations I have. So according to my notice, the ADHD partner tend to have a hard time defining themselves. And they tend to, well, part of the ADHD symptoms is sensory integration challenges, which means sometimes they get sensorily overloaded and they're overstimulated sensory-wise and they shut down. And they might also be sensation seekers. You may say, hey, this sounds very contradictory to each other. Well, actually, it's not. For example, someone with ADHD may be very sensitive when it comes to sound, but then they're actually seeking physical touch. So they may be very touchy. They want to touch everything to stimulate their brain to stay awake and alert. But when they hear loud noise or squeaky noise, they get really irritated and their threshold is very low, so they get overstimulated very quickly. They get irritable. Another thing I noticed is a lot of people with ADHD tend to use physical touch as a way to soothe themselves. That's why when we come to love language, a lot of ADHD partners, especially the male ADHD partners, tell me, my primary love language is physical touch. Well, I'm not surprised. The third thing I notice is that they have a hard time expressing emotions, and sometimes emotions overwhelm them and they shut down emotionally and they withdraw. So how's that impact their partner and how they show up in their dynamic with a non-ADHD partner? Well, a lot of non-ADHD partners, especially the female partner, take on more burden when it comes to childcare and household chores. So by the end of the day, they get really overstimulated sensory-wise, so they actually avert physical touch, right? And a lot of those partners will say, well, the last thing I want at the end of the day is to be touched and to have to give sex as another chore. So they tend to withdraw emotionally as well, sexually from their partner. So that can show us the second category, the boundaries, very easily. When it comes to sex, the ADHD partner tend to be underbounded, which means their boundaries are more open and they're the one tend to pursue more, reach out to the partner, want sex together, have some sexy time. And the non-ADHD partner that's being burdened tend to close their boundary. They're overbounded and they tend to say, no, I don't want this. Right? And they also tend to be less likely to initiate sex. So the third category is values. And there are three things that I want to talk about. So for the ADHD partner, I noticed in my clinical practice, a lot of them actually use porn as a way to regulate themselves and that to explore their sexual fantasies, which can be healthy. But when the partners withdraw from sexual interaction with their partner and they over-focus on porn and sexual stimulation, and they're using that to isolate themselves and self-regulate, you can expect what happens with their partner, the non-ADHD partner. They feel hurt. A lot of them take it personally, especially if their partner tend to be lower on the other differentiation category, which means it's really hard for them to tolerate the difference between them and their partner, and it's really hard for them not to take it personally. So I may hear non-ADHD partners saying, well, they're watching porn, that means they don't find me attractive, they don't want me anymore, they don't love me anymore, they go down the rabbit hole, right? So if you read Dr. Ackman's book, the research, it actually shows the partner seeking porn for sexual stimulation is not necessarily connected to they don't find their partner attractive. Oftentimes it's because it's more convenient, it's easier for them, and they don't need to deal with anything like foreplay, or people are just busy and burnt out and they don't have the energy for it, and so they're taking care of their own desires. The second issue in the value difference is actually desire discrepancy. According to Dr. Ackman's research, the ADHD partner actually tend to have a higher sex drive and they want to have sex more often. That applies to both men and women. So the non-ADHD partner, especially the female non-ADHD partner among the four categories, tend to be having the lowest sex drive. And so if the non-ADHD partner, female partner, paired with a male ADHD partner, you can see naturally the discrepancy is pretty high, right? And how do you negotiate the differences in sexual desire? It's a big issue and challenge, and many of the topics the partner has to talk about and to integrate their differences without taking it personally, without attacking and blaming the other person, without pulling yourself down, feeling guilty and shamed about your own desires. The third issue in the differences of value is actually a variety, a need for sexual variety and increased stimulation. So you may already know this, and the ADHD brain really seeks novelty and new experiences, and they get used to old experiences very quickly and get bored with repetition. So it's, to a certain extent, work that way for everyone, but it's particularly potent for the ADHD partner. So if the non-ADHD partner is overburdened with household work and childcare and work stress, and not having enough energy and time or desire to explore new experiences sexually with their partner, that could be a problem. It can also be a setup for infidelity and transgression. So the trick is how do you capture your ADHD partner's desires and eros and sexual energy and fantasy, and really develop this shared sexual schema together to have fun and play together, really rein this energy within the relationship. And that way, you'll strengthen your relationship. According to Dr. Ackerman's research, the more sex you have, the better sex life you have, the more sexified you are in your sex life, people tend to report relationship satisfaction go up. And then when your relationship is going well, it makes your sex life hotter. So as I said, sex is such a broad and complicated topic. It has so many little subtopics that I will cover in the future for ADHD-impacted relationship. And today I'm just pointing out a couple of observations and patterns that I see. The intention is for you to be aware of where you have challenges, where you might get stuck, where you can do something differently. I want to share a paragraph of reading that's related to this. It's from the book Unbinding by Kathleen Darling saying, becoming attentive to what's actually going on is a self-awakening. Seeing this suffering, the first noble truth, is the first step in cultivating compassion for ourselves and for a suffering world, a world saturated in, permeated by, the universal egoic capacity for destructive hate and exploitive greed. It is, in every significant and meaningful sense, our responsibility to awaken and offer awakened presence. I hope what I'm sharing today can give you some inspiration to look at your relationship dynamic and to reflect on yourself. After all, we're the only one we can be in control to change. Thank you for viewing. See you next time.